All right, guys, great to be back. This is the video I was kind of talking about in the short I posted, but I thought about this one pretty recently, and I think it's a really good time to make it because I already finished school and I finished, I'll say sports in school, but I'll still do sports, but kind of now working and managing time, which I'd made a video about managing time, but that was a lot different. This one's kind of more like actually doing those things or kind of being in that situation and working around, I guess, the different, you could say, subjects or categories, or kind of being able to formulate a schedule a little bit, but it's going to be very different than my managing time video. So, all right, let's start. We'll start like this. What I've learned from the past couple of years when it came to whether to do school, sports, working at the same time, doing one or the other, all of them, that at the end of the day, it really comes down to what you really want in the long run and kind of where you see yourself in the future. So, everyone has their different goals and dreams, right, and what they want to accomplish. However, for me, in my case, it was with, well, at the time, I've always wanted to do cinematic stuff and be really good at that, but it wasn't really there yet, so I wasn't doing it until very recently. And then just doing it, I kind of knew, like, okay, this is for me. I love doing this. I've always dreamed of this, even when I was a kid. Anyway, so, but during that time, it was like YouTube and, sports here and there, and kind of being able to grow the channel in the community. And actually, we did have a community at the time. So, I believe everything happens for a reason, and even things that you don't necessarily really care about or you isn't your favorite, maybe doesn't really correlate with you, it still has a lot of impact and even benefit, even though maybe at the time you don't realize it, but you still learn a lot from it. But the thing is, you can't go back in the time to change that, but what you can do is be like, oh, well, that happened then, and how can I use that now so I can make the time more wise, use my time more wisely today and current day. And so, that being said, during like the high school time, I was doing sports, working, school, the YouTube and the channel, and I actually had two jobs. At not all the way, but during a certain gap of time, I actually was working two jobs at the same time while doing school and sports. So, to try and generalize the best I can how to really get to where you want to be while also doing these things, pick what matters to you most. Let's say out of one of the sports you do, if you're really good at it and you absolutely love it and it's your passion, go with that for sure. Don't give up on it because you only get to do sports so many years before you'll never do it again. School is very different, depends who you are. If you are in school, and I mean, I know schools now are really, especially here in the West, schools are pretty bad. Teachers don't care, students don't care. There's really no learning or really good education unless you're, I guess you want to say, really driven to a certain thing or you want to do a trade or college. It's different. But generally, it's kind of a dud, and it's changed a lot, and it's very sad to hear like what goes on at schools now. It's just drugs, TikTok trends, broccoli heads, and fighting, violence, and degeneracy and lust. That's the majority of it. I mean, people just, oh, it's not that bad, but we're so desensitized by it. And I mean, I know a lot of people who tell me about how schools are, even random people I met on the internet or through the page and community, they just tell me how almost horrific these schools are and how kids are acting and the things they're doing, and they're 15 and 16 and whatnot. But anyways, regardless from that, find out what you want and find out what really calls out to you and what's meaningful to you, how you can balance the time out for these different things you want to do. So for me, it was kind of a learning stage for me during that time. And now today, going back and looking at it and even working a job now, how can I really get where I want to be while doing all of these things? So to go back and look at during high school, I can't change anything, and I'm glad those certain things needed to happen. But if being said that I could do the school because, your parents want you to graduate and, it's kind of how the system is, you have to get some sort of job or something, right? So do the school, and if it's something that isn't really calling to you and you're like, nobody cares, like I'm not learning anything. Maybe there's a couple classes you like, maybe there's an elective or maybe a history class or something or a PE fitness class, whatever. Put some time and effort into that, but just kind of go, hang on a little bit when it comes to the other classes, just enough so to where you graduate, so you're not putting so much time, so much energy and focus towards something that is giving you nothing and zero benefit in return. And if anything, it's just a complete waste of time, because that is generally what school has been for these, maybe even the past decade, generally a big waste of time. Same with colleges too, unfortunately. Unless you're really studying to go be an engineer or a doctor, sure. But even then, but now you have that. And then next, if you're kind of in the sports range, like if you're the kid who wants to do everything, you can do sports because generally it depends how demanding they are too, but it's beneficial because you get to develop experiences or even stories to tell, or also you're working on your physical, mental, and emotional health, because all of those play a part. So usually sports are after school, and sometimes there's games on the weekend, and again, different sports can be very demanding and it can take up your time. Okay, how can I work then? Or if I want to make money, or how can I maybe do a YouTube channel or do my side business, my side hustle? It is very possible to do all of those, but it also depends where you are in the school, because sometimes you might be like, hey, I also have a job, but I also want to do sports. So maybe instead of doing practices all 5 days of the week, maybe you do 3 or 4, and then, or unless you work on one of the weekends or one of the weekdays, couple of the weekdays. So then let's say you're able to fit and kind of cram all of that in. Now you kind of, okay, you have your goal, the main thing you want to do. That's the hardest part, because you have to figure out what is your main priorities first. And it depends on who you are. If you're, let's say, side business, your hustle, or your true dream, or whether if it's a YouTube channel or something, some content, whatever it is, that main thing you can't stop thinking about, if that is number one, that's what you should put everything to. And then have the sports on the side, and then have the job, and then, finish school and whatnot. So it really comes down to balancing kind of where you want to be and what you want to be at, but also how can you get there with also these other things going on. And a lot of it comes down to money as well. But a big factor that comes into this, when you have a lot of those things, some of the other plants, I say, don't get watered as much. And so you kind of have to make that sacrifice. So, but you can really, schools now, anybody can graduate, it's easy now. And there's just Chat GPT for everything. Sad to say about that, that's just how it is. But the main part of this, so moving on to the next point, now you kind of have an idea of the different things you want. And everybody's different. Some people don't even want to do the sport. So that's fine. That saves you more time to put more focus onto what you really want to do. But I highly recommend doing at least a sport, because it is something that I think is generally needed for everybody to experience, because you learn so much about yourself from others, from, I guess, just doing those things. It's one of the most, I think, underrated, greatest things you can even experience. And I don't think people really realize that anymore. And depending on how passionate you are on sports and how good you are at it, like, some people just do it for whatever, that's different. But I know people in my audience generally are very deep people, and we are pretty connected with ourselves and maybe others, and even just being present here on Earth itself. Turn that on. So anyway, now let's move to the next point. I know there's a little more to cover from that, but I kind of want to keep that basic. but I know you guys are pretty smart, so you get a general idea. And if you have more questions, just ask me below. So now let's say you have that and you're at the point where you're kind of older, you finished school, and you're in that point where you don't know if you want to go to college yet, a trade, if you don't want to do any of those, if you want to find a job, or if you want to do something part-time, go with what you fully want to do, if you want to travel, or if you really can't stand college or school again and you're like, this is not my purpose. But it's very hard to like figure out something, because a lot of how things revolve is selling your soul to colleges, wasting your money, getting in huge debt, getting in more debt, and falling into the system. Excuse me. So with that, you feel like you're stuck and you're running out of time. And I want you to ask yourself this. So maybe with also in that time you finished school and you were kind of going through those things, you figured out what you really wanted. I want you to, if you can, try and really travel somewhere or to something, because it is not only a life-changing experience, but you will literally, almost become a whole different person. I would say if before you ever die, you have to go around the world or somewhere and get out of this place. And I mostly speak to people in the West. Like, get out of your hometown, get out of that state, get out of the small-minded people, especially here in the United States, very small-minded, ignorant people. Get out of that and go see the world, because once you do that, you will come back here a completely different person with completely different understandings, and with, you can even say, depending on your experiences overseas, with a mindset so powerful, you will realize that you are capable of achieving things you never thought you would be, because when you were stuck here in a small hometown, you were isolated. So go do that and go meet people, go learn a new language or something, and go figure out the history of humans that we're not actually even here in the West. The history classes here are absolutely terrible. You know, your average American can't even find their own state on the map. They don't even know north, south, east, or west, whereas in Europe, those kids know everything. The schooling there, I know they say America's the best, or it's total BS, but generally speaking, a lot of those Euro kids and kids from Asia, they're like, they're generally pretty damn smart. So aside from that, try and do that if you can. But if you can't, you think, okay, I finished high school, I don't have to do that anymore. Maybe I'll play some of the sports on the side, or hey, maybe you get scholarships and you want to go to college. That's a whole different thing. That's good. But I'm kind of catering to us who are kind of like, or maybe people in similar situations like me or many others. But if you got a scholarship, you kind of have a ride to something else, which is good. But from this standpoint, we're talking like finish school, you had a really good, maybe a successful couple of last years, and you're kind of on that next step, the early step. So a job. I know jobs are kind of hard to find, and it's very difficult to apply now because ghost applications and all these different things. It's a very screwed up economy, a very screwed up kind of reality and system we have, although nobody talks about it that much. It truly is. So finding a job in balance, whether if you want to work full-time, part-time, or if you don't want to work at all, but you kind of want to go full on straight into what you need, I will say this, it's possible, but it will take a lot longer to do, and it'll be very difficult because you will need money to buy certain things, tools, resources, and equipment, or to go somewhere to do something, right? And I know it's very difficult to like even go find somewhere. Like rent is very, very expensive and unaffordable. So many people are living in huge debt, or paycheck to paycheck, or taking out loans and having huge credit card debt. But like, that's not the real true way to live. They have us conditioned that way. You're not supposed to be in debt, but it's worse to be in huge debt than it is to be just flat zeros in the account, versus where you're in pools and pools of debt, where you're literally, everything you make just goes to that debt you're paying off. So my best thing is to say, find a job that is flexible, that has a very easy working schedule, whether if it's full time, maybe find a job that's 4 10s, so you get 3 days off instead of only 2 days to be human. So maybe something 4 10s. If not, find maybe a 9 to 5 that, which I know it sucks, but don't put your full focus into it. Be a good person and a hard worker, but don't get trapped there. Find a job maybe 5 days a week that has a good schedule that works with you, so you have time to go to the gym after, or a workout or training, whatever it is. Time to spend time with your family, for yourself, and the goals and dreams you want to do. And then also times so where you can get to bed at a reasonable time and wake up at a reasonable time, so you have a very, I'll say, well balanced and healthy schedule during the weekdays, and then you have the weekends. Now, the best thing is if you can find a part-time job that actually pays pretty decent, to where you're getting a smaller amount of income, but it's still rolling in somewhere somehow, but you have much more time, and you actually have a schedule that benefits you the most. And if you are truly putting in the hard work, something that you can develop your characteristics in all different certain ways, also getting small money on the side to help provide the things that you need to get where you're at. And then those things and that money that provides that smaller part-time job will be able to, I guess, get that long-term success from whatever you're doing and to actually build into money. So with me currently, I'm lucky I have 4 10s. Weekends, I do the best that I can, but my weekdays are very short because of my hours are very weird. I wake up at 3 in the morning, and to get 8 hours of sleep, I have to be in bed at like 7, 8 p.m., 9 p.m. latest. So I don't get much time after work. I get off at 3:15 p.m. I go to the gym. I get home at like 5. So my time window is very little during the weekdays. So my weekends are kind of my, I guess, go-tos, right? But if you have a part-time job, you're on your own schedule, you're your own boss. And I'll say save your money the best you can, but also use it the best you can, because when you just save money and pile it, it does kind of help, but it's also just sitting there. And that's just kind of like how the system, they just want you to keep your money in there, not really invest it. Because the more you invest in other things in yourself, you're utilizing your money as a tool to get where you want, versus where if you're just working like a slave and it's just sitting there not doing anything, and then you use it when you're like 60 or 70 years old. It's like, come on. It's a stupid, irrelevant system that they want us to believe is good. It worked back in the day, but nowadays it doesn't, because we can't even afford anything. So that's where you want to be. You want to have balance, you want to have a schedule, you want to figure out what you want to do, and you want to figure out how to do these things in life. And unfortunately, yes, money plays a very, very big part in these things. But once you get past to the point when you realize money isn't real, even when you start saving up and making a lot, you just buy things and you're like, well, it's materialistic, but you're like, there's more to a meaning than this. So with that being said, the money's going to help you get there, but when you really get there, the money's going to be able to, again, money is very useful, and I believe it can buy many forms of happiness, but it isn't absolutely everything, because your family is absolutely everything. Maybe whether if you have a faith or not, it is everything, and yourself, your health, and kind of the overall things you truly enjoy in life. But yes, money is great, but I truly believe it isn't absolutely everything, but it is part of it. So to summarize this, and so we're not kind of mixed up here, if you are in that kind of range, you're still in school, you want to do sports, whichever, find your balance, find your passion, find whatever you love, find what works for you, find what you can kind of squeeze time in for things that are getting you closer to your goal. So when you, let's say, leave that school, or if you decide to go to college or trade or not, or if you don't, you kind of have the mindset and the experience to formulate, what can I do with this? How can I balance these other things out? How can I handle these situations to where I'm able to get certain things done but also be successful? So that being said, for the second part, to where you finish school and you know what you truly want to do, but there's not a lot of jobs or degrees or careers based off of that, and you don't want to go to college for 4 to 6 years and be in debt and waste your youth just going to school and not being able to do anything, pooling in debt. I mean, come on. Most of these kids, their parents pay for their college. That's why they say, oh, it's so good and we love college, but they're using Chat GPT and AI for everything. Their mom and dad are paying for it, and they're doing nothing but partying and drinking their college life. So these are the people getting degrees. These people can literally vote. But you're a lot greater than that. Just because this is what everyone else says, this is what the system tells you to say, doesn't mean it's right, doesn't mean you have to do it. If you truly put the work to it, you can accomplish anything. And that's why I think the starter pack of success is, I would say, let's say after you're kind of in this thing like me, find a job to where you can have balance, where you're making money, you're saving up, and then you can use that towards what you truly want to do, whether if it's a full-time, part-time job. And once you can really get that, once you see the money saving up, you can really use that for resources and you can really get started. So the saying you have to have money to make money is pretty valid. But starting off small is all it takes. So you can spend your 4 years throwing away your early 20s, throwing away your potential, going into serious debt, or if you were to spend 4 years maybe doing a full part-time job, but actually using your money, not getting in debt, but using your money to something that is actually going to get you somewhere, that you can actually become far more successful in 4 years of time with your efforts, that you can really have a better, I'll say, return on investment or interest as you get out, as those kids who are just getting out of their 4-year degrees, not guaranteed a job yet, have college debt. Sometimes they pay off until they're like near retiring 20, 30 years later. And after tax, sales tax, if you have it, or income tax, it's like you're not making as much as they say that you are, because you got to find a place to stay, you got to pay insurance, car, health insurance, your college debt, and then your taxes from your salary. It's like, you know, they're almost in the same pool as kind of, whether if you've had zero debt and you've been going at it, you've had the head start. But they say, oh, well, they drive a really nice car, they drive a BMW or Mercedes as they got out. It's like, bro, you know how many of those kids' parents actually pay for that and how much they actually might get that job and might get it, but they're literally paying off in debts and credits, they're taking out loans, they're on leases. They say that, they give you the fake images to make you think they're actually successful in that way, but in secret, they're not making huge salaries. They're not making 6 figures. Some maybe, most of them aren't, but they're in crippling debt. It's all a lie. These people are lying. It's a huge lie. So that's what I'm telling you. You can get there without doing what everybody else is doing. So formulate a schedule, formulate a plan, have your balance, get some small income to slowly invest into something you love doing, or something you want to do, or something, a skill set you're very good at, or even to learn a skill set. So do that and do those things, and you will get very far. So that's kind of mostly the video, is find your balance, find your schedule, find your passions and the things you love, find a way to get income slowly coming in, and don't lose yourself. Don't lose yourself to others, to the things that you truly believe in. Stay as authentic as possible, and just don't give up on your dreams, because whether how outrageous or delusional they may sound, with your hard work and all the other things you have coming in, it is very doable. Because there are people who might not even have, let's say, 1 million subs on YouTube. They might have 10, 20, 30,000. They still actually make really decent incomes, depending on if they're selling a product, service, or knowledge, or how well they were able to be successful, or how well they have a community. They might have smaller quantity, but the quality is very high. So it's possible, because what is everyone else doing? Ask yourself. Me going out, it's like when you ask a lot of people or friends, and I would maybe say people I don't know, or random, or others, or just kind of the majority, what are they doing? Like, what are they genuinely doing? They're doom scrolling, They're dressing like TikTok trends. Again, it's broccoli heads, Edgars, and freaking the camo pants garbage. They're not doing anything. They're spending their parents' money, and they are just partying, drinking, smoking, sleeping around. That's literally it. That's your competition. That is your, or they're waiting for to watch the Super Bowl. You know, they're crazy about the Super Bowl when like there's crazier things going on. Like, I mean, you guys know what I'm saying, but I have to be careful because YouTube is very strict with certain things, which is very unfortunate. I'm not scared to say things, but you know, these channels are kind of all I have, but I know you guys understand that. So they're distracted by the circus, okay? You run your own show, you do your own thing, and you'll become successful. You will find your people eventually. So I think that wraps it up. Any more questions or comments, let me know down below, and we'll make more videos like these. So don't worry, we're not going anywhere. I'm not giving up on you guys, and unfortunately, I do regret not being able to make cinematic videos this weekend because, well, my equipment isn't very good for like in the rain, and it rained like these past couple of days, and you know, it's kind of annoying like when there's things you can't control and you can't really do anything about it, but I try to find other ways to make it up. But like, I'm not gonna just say, oh, this is just a thing and I'm not gonna get bored of it. Like, I am doing cinematic videos and I'm doing my YouTube. I am not giving up on this, and this is something I will and I'm going to do, and I'm going to make this work out, and I genuinely mean that. So I have other plans for cinematic videos if I can't go to the certain location. So there's many cool tools and ideas and cool short film movies that I'm gonna make. Very purposeful, very meaningful, very deep, and I want to revive something back in people that maybe we are starting to lose as time goes on, because this world is becoming very crazy and people are becoming very heartless and people are almost losing their way of humanity. I want to bring that back. I want to give experience and give a story for everyone. And I want, at the end of the day, people to kind of think differently when they have an interaction or experience with you. Or you can kind of tell them when they're looking at you a certain way, they feel maybe trusted or comfortable, or they feel that there's something unique about you that they might remember for the next day, that day, the day of, or maybe the next hour, or maybe the next work shift they have, wherever it is. So I want you to be unique, and I want the best for all of us. All right, guys. I think this was great. Let's call it. And yeah, don't worry. I know there's some of you who put comments, and one of the homies, I'm giving a shout out. He's in the past couple of videos. He left a really long comment that was really good. And so I'm going to actually make a separate video about that and kind of mention it. So don't worry, man. I didn't forget about you. So, and I know all the OGs are still here, but just remember, guys, to keep in touch and keep commenting, and you know, show your presence in the videos and kind of make yourself heard, because that's exactly what we want. I want some of us to kind of, you know, come out of the shadows and feel that we're not alone. So, all right. Wow, 30 minutes almost. I was looking at this at when it was at its 8-10 minute mark. I'm like, all right, I can finish this. But this is actually really good. All right, guys. I'll see you then, all right? I had a great time with this one. Peace.